tonight. I'm going to go over a couple of quick items. Again, we want to thank the Teton County Library for letting us have this room. Before we go any farther, the last meeting we had a lot of issues with the remote people unmuting themselves, so we got a lot of crosstalk. So please remember to mute your computer unless you have a question. Upcoming events. On the 15th, we're going to have a landscape contest, and we'll get the details about that out in the next snapshot. And then in December, we're going to have a social get-together. And again, we'll be sending the details out on that. Right now, we've got some other events coming up that aren't necessarily sponsored by TPC, but Brian Creek has a trip to Monument Valley, and we're going to let Brian say a few words about that.
We don't see your slide.
Yeah, we're not seeing that.
Yeah, it's not
What?
moving on our.
I don't know what that little window is.
This is what we see.
There
Okay,
you
now
go.
it.
That's
now
better.
There it is.
So just
Okay.
Don't go to full screen.
Okay.
Do this.
All right, Brian, can you hear us? You're going to have to unmute yourself if you want to speak. All right, we'll come back to Brian in a minute. One other thing I wanted to mention, if y'all remember Doug Ayers, he used to do a charity photography portrait shoot for Native Americans in the area. And he's unable to do it, but this year, John Miller is doing it. And I may ask Tim Labasi if you want to say a couple of words about it, if everybody can hear you.
Yeah, if everybody can hear me. It's basically a community photo shoot. We take pictures of 122 habitat. It's basically for anyone that can't really afford to have a professional photographer do a portrait. So they come in, he's got 3 or 4 studios set up with lights. He's looking for photographers, preferably with portrait experience, but since he wants me to do it, that obviously isn't a requirement. It's November 5th. It's pretty much from 9 to 4. He also needs probably some other people too. I haven't talked to him recently, but he has people there doing makeup, hair. The family will come in, the photographer will take 30 images, and then they'll hand off their card to somebody who will load it on a computer. We try and print something for them that day that they can pick up and take home with them. So it's basically for anyone in the valley that wants a family portrait done but just can't afford it. It's great. Doug's done it a lot. He's done it for years. He's done stuff with senior center. He's done stuff with the powwows across Wyoming. So it's a fun event. I think he just needs more photographers to help him. If you can't do the whole day, if you can even just do the morning, anything would be helpful.
All right, and his phone number and email address is on the slide right now. So if anybody is interested in that, get a hold of him or send me an email and I'll forward it on.
Brian's unmuted. Do you want to ask?
Oh, and Brian, are you available to talk about your trip to Monument Valley?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Yeah, going down to Monument Valley, meeting at the Monument Valley Welcome Center on the 28th at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And then we're going with a guide. It's $300 a person to go out to Hunts Mesa, spend the night out there, go up to the top of the mesa and get sunrise and sunset pictures of the valley. And then coming back the next day sometime in the afternoon, probably going to go, if the weather will cooperate, and see Spider Arch while we're there. They fix dinner for you. You have your choice of steak, chicken, or Navajo tacos. They provide tents, cots, and sleeping bags, although Rachel, John, and I have discussed this, and we're bringing our own sleeping bags. But the guide that I've been talking to, who comes really highly recommended, I don't know if any of you guys know Milo Fowler. He suggested this guy. And he said that he thinks that they may start limiting access to some areas next year for trips. This area might be one of the areas they're going to limit access to. So it might be a real good opportunity. And Rachel, John, and I will be there, so you know the company's going to be good.
So
If anybody's interested, you can send me an email at briand@briancreek.com. D is in David. And I will catch you up.
all right.
What are the dates again?
The 28th and 29th, meeting at the Welcome Center in Monument Valley at 1 o'clock on the 28th. It's a bit of a drive to get down there. I'm staying in the in Monument Valley in the Navajo's View Hotel a couple of days before and one day after, but I don't think there's any, unless they've had some cancellations, which always happens.
All right.
I assume that's October.
Yep.
Okay.
And Rachel and I were talking, and after this guy said that they may start limiting access next year, we decided to let everybody know in case you wanted to go, because the rules might change.
And I just want to make it, I just want to make it clear.
Have you muted?
Yes.
Doesn't show up. Let me come to you.
Oh. Yeah, just talk.
Sorry, we're having issues with sound. I just want to make it clear that that is not a TPC endorsed event. No offense, Brian, but just for public liability insurance, etc. If you go, it's nothing to do with us. I'm going, but we're not legally responsible for it.
You all have to assume your own personal responsibility and liability. I mean, this is Wyoming.
All right.
Is it hiking or?
No, four-wheel drive.
But you're overnighting in tents or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We're gonna move on. So
Brian, can he mute himself?
yeah, Brian, if you can hit mute again. So we're gonna start a new program. I guess I'm gonna let Rachel talk about it, called What Have I Been Shooting? Do you want me to? Why don't we just not try to do a slideshow at this point?
So we're going to start doing a new program at the beginning of each meeting every month that we don't have an invited speaker. And it's going to be called What Have I Been Shooting? And we're inviting contributions from all members. And if you wanted to get involved, you just send in 3 images that you've shot in the last month or recently. And we just want to have a short showcase at the beginning of every meeting, just to get an idea of what members are shooting. Also, I think it's really interesting to then know what's going on in the area. So, if somebody knows there's a lot of bears in a certain place, or, you've seen some nice fall color, that is nice to share with the members. And also, if you just want to have a bit of a humble brag, submit some images if you got something really fun, really nice. So just as an introduction to the sort of thing that we would encourage you to submit, but it can be anything, it could be a bear walking down the main street of town, or it could be your family having a party. So we've got some photos here from some members that we're going to show quickly tonight, and we did run them at the beginning. But this one here is one of David's.
Yeah, but You want to see the other ones real quick?
Yeah, so we'll just quickly cycle through them just to give you an idea, but think about that for the next time we have a meeting, we'll include it in the snapshot so you know that you can submit photos, and they'll just be when we don't have a speaker, so we have enough time to do it beforehand.
That's what I'm using. Yeah, it's not,
Yeah,
Oh,
I think there's a bit of a delay on,
it's not sharing on Zoom.
it's not showing on Zoom.
Stop.
Oh, okay.
We might want to.
We'll start the slideshow later. How's
Yeah.
that? We've got too many issues going. All right. Do you see that? Where, well, oh. Yeah. All right. So we're going to move on to the theme for the night is what do I do? So our panel is Beth Holmes, Rachel Dunlop, Kathy Aronson, Lauren Nelson, and Michael Cohen. So I'm going to turn it over to Michael at this point and let you guys get started here.
So I'm actually going to turn it over to Rachel in a moment, but let me just give you a quick preview of what we're going to do. I am remote, so you guys that are on Zoom should be able to hear me pretty well, I hope. And in a moment, I'm going to share my screen, and I have got 14, looks like, nope, 17 images that have been submitted by about 10 or 12 member photographers, thank you very much, that are absolute raw images straight out of the camera. And what we're going to do tonight is with the panel and with the audience that's at the library and with the audience that's on Zoom, we're going to sort of bring these images to life. Rachel is going to guide us through and take suggestions from everybody and tell them to me, and I will use my mouse and keyboard to implement those edits. So Rachel, I'll give it to you.
Okay, so do you want to switch to Lightroom? Who's got the Lightroom presentation?
So you should be able to see that on the screen now, is that correct? Rachel, can you see that? Rachel, can you hear me?
We can see it.
Oh, you can, okay.
Yeah,
good.
you can you hear me now, Michael?
Yeah, I hear you perfectly, Rachel. Thank you.
Great. So sorry about the technical hiccups, everybody. Let's just jump straight in. Who would like to make a suggestion for how to edit this image? I'm going to kick it off just so I can get everyone excited. How about we lighten up the foreground? Because it looks a little bit dark. There's no detail in the shadows. Obviously, the background's really nicely exposed, but what I'd probably want to do is get a linear filter and pull it up and lighten up those shadows. So Michael, do you want to do that?
Okay, so can you guys see me pulling up a linear gradient now?
Yeah.
So I'll pull it up to about here. And let me just make mention of the fact that we're going to try to make these edits fairly quickly. So they're not going to be exactly perfect. If I were going to do this for real, I would not only take this, but I would also add a brush to add this stuff in here. And while I'm mentioning it, there are new tools that actually came out today in Lightroom 12 that would allow me to create this mask in about 2 seconds, but we're not going to work with that tonight. So I'll just work with this gradient. And the first thing I'll do is I'll try to bring some shadows up. And Rachel, how's that look?
Yeah, what does the audience think of that? Yeah, everyone thinks that's better.
Okay,
I'm gonna ask someone from the panel. Someone from the panel have a suggestion?
Dehaze the sky.
So Beth would like to dehaze the sky, please.
before we dehaze the sky, it feels like we might want to bring the highlights down. Is anyone okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, now I'll dehaze. You want me to dehaze the whole image or just the sky?
Beth says just the sky, please, Michael.
Okay, so we'll pick up another linear gradient. We'll add to the mask we already have. We'll take a linear gradient and we'll bring it down into the sky. And we will dehaze it a little bit. About there?
Yeah, that looks good.
Okay. So that's how we started, just to give everybody a refresher. And this is where we are so far. So we haven't done very much. Let me turn on the history panel so you guys can see what we've done. So we started out with a linear gradient, did some shadows, pulled down some highlights, another linear gradient, and then some dehaze.
So Michael, I have a suggestion to make the autumn colors or the fall colors pop a bit more, is to go to calibration, the calibration tab.
Okay,
That's the very bottom. And just move the slider for the saturation for the red. Actually, pull it all the way so people can see what the difference is. Pull it back again, just like slide it up and down like a crazy person. So let's just pull it up maybe, you know, just about, yeah, there. And then grab the saturation on the green, please, and do the same. Just pull it down a bit and up, just sort of toggle it so we can see what happens when you desaturate. Okay, about there. And then please do the same with the blue. Okay, yep, I like that. Thank you. Anyone else have anything they think should be done? What about?
Adding something to the mountains, so you can actually see a little bit in there, not much, but just a little bit. But right now it's kind of a black block.
So Michael, Tim Labasi has a suggestion of adding something to the mountains so that they get a bit of definition. Would you say like texture or clarity, Tim, or?
Maybe a tiny bit of exposure and a little bit of texture.
Yeah, so maybe bring the exposure up a bit on the mountains.
so I'm
and
just
then
gonna,
can you?
I'm just gonna brush them in a little bit, just to, so we can work on them. Just sort of quick and dirty.
Yeah.
And let's try some texture. How's that?
And he wants you to bring up the exposure a bit. Just see what happens if you do that. No, he doesn't like that.
How about some dehaze a little bit? No. How about some clarity? How about that?
Yeah, we all think that works well.
Okay.
Yeah, so Beth has suggested, do we need to crop it? What do people think about maybe cropping it from the top a little and from the right-hand side a little? Would you say, Beth? Or where? Yeah, so can we crop just a little from the top and the right-hand side? Yeah. Keep going, she says. Beth says, keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. She'll tell you when to stop. Keep going. Keep going. Still? More? You want more?
I'm looking to see how it. Yes,
Okay, she says stop there.
and then pull it up.
Well, I gotta get this bush back. How about that?
Yeah.
Well, Beth thinks that you should unlock the ratio and pull the top up.
So more sky, less,
Oh, she wants less foreground and more sky. Yeah.
oh, but not,
Not less foreground, just more stuff.
there you go.
Like that?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what Beth wants, like that.
Not quite, a little more down, back down a little.
Down a little bit more foreground. Okay.
I'll go with that.
Yeah, we can cope with that. Okay, yep, that's pretty good. Okay, is everyone happy with that? Would anyone else like to add anything? We're pretty happy with that. Anyone else online have anything they want to add? I guess we can't tell because they're all muted.
For you folks that are on Zoom, feel free to unmute yourself to make suggestions. By the way, we have a new member with us. Kyle Moon is here tonight. Hey, Kyle.
How you guys doing? I just want to say this is awesome. Happy to be a part of this club, and yeah, I look forward to kind of being being a part of it.
Good show. Is Sue Lurie here? It's her image.
Yeah, she's here. She's here live in person.
Oh, Sue, what do you think? Okay, Rachel, should we move to the next one?
So Sue's saying she thinks the yellows are a bit intense. She wants to lighten them a bit. And she would brush the conifers a bit to bring them out because they're just really very dark. There's no detail there.
How's that? That okay?
Sue says thank you. She likes that.
So this is how we started, folks. It's hard to remember. And now it looks so different, doesn't it? And this is where we ended up.
Wow.
Terrific. All right, you ready for the next one?
Yep, we're ready for the next one.
So this is Calissa Garland's picture. Is she here?
Calissa Garland, is she here? No.
Okay, how do you want to begin?
I get rid of the mother.
I didn't hear
A
that.
bear. Tim says we should remove the mama bear from the image.
So I kind of anticipated that. And so before we started, I went into Photoshop and used content aware fill. And in one quick second, that's where we ended up.
Repeat what you did again, Michael?
I went into Photoshop and I used content aware fill. I can actually do it if you want to do it.
Yes.
Yeah, so as Lauren mentioned, Lightroom introduced that today. So you no longer have to go to Photoshop. You can do it through the healing brush now. You can do
Right.
content aware fill through the healing brush in Lightroom.
So Rachel, do you see my Photoshop screen now?
We see your Lightroom screen with the mama bear gone and then coming back in and
Okay,
out.
then let me unshare and reshare. Okay, now do you see my Photoshop screen?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, we
so,
see it. Yes.
so this is pretty simple. So I just took a lasso brush and I drew around Mama's face. Can you see that drawing, Rachel? Okay.
Yeah, we see
Now
that.
that area is selected. And I say edit, content aware fill. And then up comes a screen and it's asking me what areas to use to fill it. So I'm just going to use the areas right around it. And over here, you see a preview of what it did. And so if we like that, maybe I'll add a little bit more down here. And then you just click OK. And there it is. And if I hit save, and I close Photoshop, are you back to Lightroom screen now?
Not quite.
Okay, let me stop the share and reshare. You got it now?
Yes.
Okay, this is where Mama Bear was about 10 seconds ago.
Yeah, we got it.
So you see how fast that was. Now, you know, it isn't perfect, but it's actually pretty good. You know, we could do a little bit more in Photoshop with this area, but we're not going to do it tonight. But just so you have a quick demonstration of how content aware fill works if you haven't used it before. Okay, now what do you want to do?
So Karen's suggesting we bring down the highlights in the foreground.
Okay, so there's a couple of things that can go on here. Before I do that, does anyone want to darken any of this area, or do we want to keep that way it is?
Darken it a little bit.
Yeah, Tim says you can darken it a little bit because it maybe is a bit distracting and you want
Because
the
one of the
bears
things that we could do is we could put a radial filter around the cubs and darken everything. Let's try that real quick. So I'll pick up the cubs with a lot of feathering, and then I'll invert it. See up here? And then I can just begin to darken the whole thing, and that really makes the whole thing pop up. So that's one way to do it. The other way would be to use a brush and brush the foreground and darken it. But what do you think of that?
Looks fake.
Some people think it's a little bit too much, but we like the spotlight effect.
Okay, how about that?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. What's next?
So we obviously need to crop it. I think that's pretty clear. I don't
How
think
do
we
you-
want the tree, do we? I don't want the tree on the right, the big tree.
So do you want it to be a vertical or you want to just pull it in?
Pull it in from the bottom right-hand corner.
About like that?
Yeah, that's like that. That's good. There's a tiny bit of tree there on the right still, but
Picky, picky, picky.
I'm just the messenger.
How about adding some saturation to the cubs?
Contrast.
Yeah.
What's that? Did
Maybe
someone-
drop exposure on the Cubs a little.
Well, we could probably do that the easy way, drop it on the cubs a little bit, and then go back to the mask and add it back. Right? I was thinking maybe we could brush in, if I increase the saturation a little bit, and just brush it in, give them a little bit of color on their faces. So that's where we started, minus the crop. And that's where we are. Did someone say something about contrast? No?
We had a suggestion of changing the color grading to Adobe, did you say landscape? To Adobe landscape from Adobe color
Change the
before you did all of that.
well, you know, one of the things that we haven't done yet in this image, and it's probably good for it, is to set the white and the black point, because someone mentioned contrast. And so if we set the white and the black point a little bit, that's going to give us a little bit more contrast. Like that. And does everybody know you can use keyboard shortcut J, and that will activate the clipping boxes on the histogram, so that then when you start moving things around, anything that's clipped to the black will turn blue, and anything that's clipped to the white will turn red. And you can just bring it back to right before the clip point.
I think we also ought to clone out a couple of those twigs on the bottom right.
Like this one.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Oh, you're gonna make me work, Charlotte?
Yeah. Well, I would go into Photoshop to do it, but you think Lightroom's
Let's see.
okay. Let's see. Ooh.
That one looks pretty, how's that look?
Pretty good.
Do you want this one too?
I would, yes. How about everybody else?
Yes.
Do you want this one too?
No.
Okay.
It's too
I hadn't
much.
noticed that one, but there's one leaning in over on the right-hand side in the grass that I probably would take.
This?
away. No, lower. That
This one
one.
here?
Yeah, what does everybody think about that one?
Pretty good. Not perfect, but you'd have a hard time finding it.
So Michael, can you go to the profile tab and change the color profile and just to see what it does? We've had
Where's
so above the eyedropper in the basic, yeah, just there, go to the color next to it. There's drop downs under the color. No, the.
Yeah, you may have more than I have on mine,
Okay.
because I don't use this.
Yeah, no. Sorry, could you repeat that? Could you bring up the highlights on the eyes of the bears? Yeah, can you bring up the highlights on the eyes of the bears, please?
I don't see any.
You just want to do the whole eye?
Just a little bit. They don't want to. We don't want them to look like zombie bears, but.
And then I would say this might be getting like nitpicky, but on the bear on the left, on its left eye has like a little white spot, like a eye thing.
Okay, hold on. Let's do one thing at a time. So you want to do highlights? You're not going to get anything out of highlights. You're going to need to either do whites or exposure. So this is what exposure will do. So let's just bring it up a little bit. And whites will also give you that catch light a little bit brighter.
So try pulling the shadows up a bit, Michael.
Maybe
It's
Dr.
going to look really weird. I wouldn't do any more than that. Now, someone was saying something about another eye.
I was just saying on that, there's like one white speck I think we can get rid of. Yeah, there.
Right there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can get rid of that. Okay, so from there to there.
I know you said that you weren't going to mess with the what was left over from getting rid of Mama Bear, but it does look like a giant cactus to the left. Is there some quick thing we could do to help that out on the left?
Yeah, we could probably heal this a little bit with some opacity adjustment. So let's see, if I just take some of this, let's see what the machine wants to do first, not that. Does that look a little better?
Yes. It kind of broke up that
Yep,
pockmark looking thing.
sure. Anybody want to add texture to the fur?
Yes.
So I'm going to suggest two things. First, let's add some texture to the fur. Okay, and then something that I really like that depends upon your personal preference, but I'm gonna show you a concept here let me shut off the auto masking. I'm going to brush in all this foreground. And in order to create some separation between the bears in the foreground, I'm actually going to add negative clarity. See that? So we go from that to that. Better or worse?
Better.
Better.
Okay. Are we good? Should we move to the next one, Rachel?
I think we need to move on, Sue. Yeah. Yeah, let's move on.
That's where we started. So Brian gave us two different panos. Brian, I got this one and I have this one. Which one do you want to work on?
I don't really like either one of them.
You want to skip it?
Well, do you see right in the center of both of them, I had a polarizer on a 15mm lens, and so it darkened that area of the sky. I played with this a lot, but I haven't been able to get the sky to be more of a uniform tone or value.
Mm-hmm.
And that was wanting to see. You can use content aware fill to create, the fill in the black areas, but the sky is problematic.
Well, why don't we work on this one then? And why don't we take care of the easy stuff first by cropping it and now, can anyone think of what we would want to do to fix this?
We could do sky replacement, I suppose, but that's kind of cheating.
Well, no, I think that's exactly the right thing to do. Let's do it. So we'll go into Photoshop. And are you guys still seeing Lightroom or are you seeing Photoshop?
We see Photoshop here.
You do, okay. So now I'm going to do sky replacement. Where is that? In image? Where it's
Under
in-
edit.
Edit. Yeah, edit sky replacement. And in order to make it not cheating, Brian, we're going to basically replace it with the same thing. Oops, let's try that again.
Oh.
Well, well, well. Let's give it one more try. Something's wrong with Photoshop.
Can you tell us what you would do if it was working?
Yeah, so what if it was working? So I would hit sky replacement and then you would select one of these skies, and I would probably select this one right here, and it would replace this sky with this sky, and I would just slide it down so it didn't show any of the orange, and you just had a new blue sky take the place of this blue sky.
Okay, thanks.
Not sure why that's not working, but that's what we would do.
Can I ask you another question about Photoshop?
Yeah.
How do you, once you make an adjustment, where do you hit okay or?
Oh, in the panel, it'll tell you what to do. It'll give you an okay. So here we've selected the sky, and I don't think there's any way to really fix it. I mean, maybe we could de-sharpen it. Does
You
that
could
help a
try
little bit?
healing it.
What's that?
You could try healing it, couldn't
No,
you?
I don't know if that would work. Does de-sharpening it help at all, or does that not help?
How about just bringing up the shadows?
In the
What did
sky,
someone say?
Tim, where you just.
Just in the sky, 'cause that one's darker.
Tim is suggesting that you brush out the shadows or bring the shadows up a bit in the sky. Would that help? Oh yeah, that's helped. Yeah.
So we could do that, and then that's a great idea, Tim. And then we can, if we want to darken it up again, maybe we could. There you go. So that's the original tone, but we got rid of the shadow. Brian, what do you think of that? What else you guys want to do to this?
The
So
reflection,
if you look at the histogram, it's very much to the left. I think you could probably try to bring the exposure up in general.
So, well,
Because
why don't we use the
there's
white?
nothing on the right,
Why don't we use the white point? Why don't we
or the
bring up
white
the
and the
white point?
black point, yeah.
Yeah, so if I
That's
bring the
better.
white
The
point,
histogram is almost.
yeah. And the blacks are pretty good. I'll just bring them down just a little bit. So far we've gone from here to here. Do you guys want to bring this up at all?
Yeah, we want to get some detail in those pines.
About like that, maybe?
I like that much better.
I have a suggestion for the water at the front where the rocks are visible. Take a brush and just lightly brush the area where you can see the rocks and then add a little bit of dehaze to that.
About like that?
Yep. We've had
Is
a
this
comment here
bothering
saying
anybody? What's that?
the rocks on the right-hand side are too bright. Can you bring the highlights down in those rocks at the
Yep,
bottom right?
I was just asking about that. Start. That's where we are now.
what about those 3 white lines on the left side that are running into the water?
Yeah, they're like pilings.
Those need to go.
That might be a little tricky. Let's try it. Okay, how's that?
I would
Might be
increase the temperature to on the hill on the right. Well, I would brush it in, but you could try it globally. I would brush in that hill and make it a bit more yellow. Or just try it globally and see what happens. We don't want to lose the blues though.
Yeah, no, I've just warmed it up quite a bit.
Yep, good.
Brian, what do you think? Brian's gone to get a beer. Okay, should we move on?
Yep.
Tim, this is yours? Wow.
Yeah, so this was actually one I used for the black and white theme. It didn't come out very good, so I would start by cropping it into a pano, get rid of a lot of the stuff on the bottom and on the left. And from there, I don't know what you do as a black and white.
Can you hear that, Michael?
No, not really.
Tim, can you come up and speak into the laptop?
So this was for our black and white theme. And it didn't come out very good as a black and white the way I did it. But what I would start with is crop from the bottom to get rid of all that stuff on the right-hand corner. Yeah, keep going. And then from the left, crop in quite a bit too.
You want to come in more?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. I kind of like it like this.
Oh, okay, well, all right, well, let's try that. So then do something so it becomes a good black and white.
So let's start by dehazing it a little bit. And then we can make it black and white. And then we can darken the sky a little bit. Then we can set the white and the black point. I can bring the shadows up a little bit for the foreground. That's not a bad start. So now we want to sort of be able to showcase these mountains a little bit. So let's just showcase them.
Sorry.
How's that?
That's a lot better than what I came up with, so I like it.
All right, so let's review what we did. So we set the white and the black point. We brought up the shadows, which basically just brought up the foreground because there is not a bunch of shadows up here with the exception of these two peaks here. And then we added texture, clarity, and dehaze. So we went from that to that pretty quickly. And the only other thing I might do is I might sharpen it. A little bit. How does that look on the big screen?
Yeah, it looks great.
Now you want to crop it, Tim?
I did, but you know, if you're happy with that, I cropped it so yeah, so it's closer to that. And then up a little from the bottom, but mostly so the grand kind of stood out more. Or whatever mountain that is.
That looks good.
Yeah, Tim likes that.
Yeah.
That's about a 16 by 9. Let's just see. Yeah. You know, it's kind of nice to crop things in an aspect ratio that makes it easy for people to hang it on their wall so it matches other things that they have. Should we move on?
Yep, we like that. Thank you. Next.
And now for something completely different.
Yes, this is Susan, and I just wanted to say, this happened so quickly. I was sitting and I was not very mobile that day. And 5 people stood in front of me with the golden and the bald eagle. So this is one of the people, her arm in front of me. So I'm pretty sure we could crop it, but we also had a very dark background because of the time of day.
Well, we're going to have to crop it an awful lot. So let's see where we end up. So if we try to keep the aspect ratio, I don't know if we can, but let's try. This was a 70 to 200 with a converter, right?
Yes.
What brand of lens is it?
Sony and the Sony A1.
Uh-huh. So we're starting to see the limitations of the converter, I think, right?
Probably, yes.
Yep. Because this is not real sharp. But let's just do this as an exercise anyway. So what else would we want to do to this image now that it's cropped?
Lighten the background.
If you look at the histogram, Michael, it's very far to the left, so obviously it's underexposed.
So let's bring it up and then we can bring the highlights back down to pick that head up a little bit. See what that does, guys? Because it's really the brightest part of the image. The highlights really only impact the eagle's head. See that? This highlight slider is really, really useful. And then I think for up here and up here, we can take care of that later by vignetting it. But what else do you want to do to this image?
We want to pull up the shadows in the background, just maybe a little bit, or maybe not. I don't know, because we want to make the birds pop. Just try pulling the shadows up and see what happens.
I kind of think it's bright enough, but you're going to make it even brighter.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try something a little bit tricky, guys. I would like these birds to be closer together. And there is a way to use the healing brush to move an object. And let's see if this is going to work. So I'm going to use the healing brush, and I want the bird to be about here. So I'm going to highlight this area, and I'm going to try to fill it with this area. You see what I'm doing?
Wow.
Hold on. I got to start over. Hold on. That wasn't quite enough. I got to give it more real estate. So you can select the target. So I'm going to use this as the target. Okay, so now I have 2 birds. So now I want to replace this bird. So I'm going to go back into the healing brush and I'm going to replace this bird with something else. Let's say from over here. So you guys see what I did?
Magic, Michael.
Yes.
So I'm going to explain this again. You can take an area that you want to replace with something else, and then you can choose the target. And so I chose as the target the bird, which basically moved the bird, and then I erased the original bird. So now we could actually recrop it. Susan, is that better or worse?
Better and interesting. Later in that whole sequence, they were very close together, but there was a dead tree right behind them. So it was like, it was so just a little bit too challenging between the people, you know, and the backgrounds. But this, I think, looks wonderful.
Yeah, so that illustrates one of the things that you can do with the healing brush that isn't really like the main purpose of the healing brush. And then we can just vignette to get rid of all this stuff that we don't like.
So how do you choose, would you go through what you actually chose to choose the spot to move it to?
Sure. So this is the spot that I was moving the bird to. And so I had to choose the right spot. If I had picked the spot up here, then I would have moved this stuff to down here.
Right.
But you can literally choose the replacement spot. So I just chose the bird. And because Lightroom does a really good job of blending the edges, it turned out to be really good.
Can you do the same thing in Photoshop?
No, Photoshop, you would actually want to either select a mask for the bird and move the bird, and then you'd have to fill the area where the bird came from.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Well, this looks great. Thank you.
So I'm not sure that this was an image that was worth trying to turn into a great image because of how much it had to be cropped, but it was a good exercise to see some of these tools.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. That was very informative.
And how would you
the-
get rid of the gold in the upper right corner from the arm?
Yeah, so if you wanted to do something with this, you actually could. I could take let's just do it quick. I could take a linear gradient and then I could tint it green. And then that's a little too green, so I could desaturate it a little bit. So you see that? From that to that.
Yeah, get it.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
Becky, this is yours.
Yes.
Okay, guys, what do you want to do?
Anyone?
it was taken almost midday, so it just seems a little washed out, and I'd like to know what better to do with the bridge, or whether to get rid of the bridge or not. I thought it was an interesting aspect, but I didn't know if it took away from the mountains and the foliage.
Right.
So Michael, pull a black point up first because clipping.
That's about 0.
Okay. And then Tim Labasi wants to bring the exposure down, but I presume not in the bridge, Tim. You're talking about the main image.
Yeah, I mean, if the bridge is black, it doesn't matter to me. But,
Yeah.
Yeah, just
Oh.
bringing the exposure down, pop the colors a little.
Bring the exposure down a tiny bit.
So I just brought it down 1/3 of a stop.
Okay, yeah, that looks
I would
good.
also bring the highlights down, though. I think that's really the problem.
Yep.
So I think it's less about the exposure. I'll bring it down maybe a little bit, but see, the highlights is really where the problem is. And then if you use the HSL panel to saturate these yellows a little bit, woo, baby. How's that look?
Better.
So what do you want to do about this bridge?
I don't know. I'm open to suggestions. I wonder if
Well, let's see what
you have
happens.
the
if we-
shadow under it.
Yeah, let's see if we can see it better, if that helps or hurts. Better or worse?
Oh, that's
Better.
much better.
Yeah, now it's part of the picture. Does anyone think this sky is a little bit too saturated? What if I do this? Ooh. Don't want to do that.
No.
Just desaturate it a little bit. Like instead of that.
And how did you just select the sky to do that?
So if you think about it, the sky is blue, nothing else in the image is blue. So if I go to the HSL panel and I put the dropper on this blue, no matter what I do to it, almost nothing else in the image is going to be affected.
Okay.
You know, if I did it with green, that would be a different story because I got green over here, I got green over here, I got green over here, I got green over here. But there's no blue, with the except there's a little bit of blue in this shadow here.
See what it looks like in black and white.
David Navratil wants to see what it looks like in black and white, please.
I think you can almost, if you played around with the trees, maybe I'm wrong, but you could almost make it look like a infrared photo.
Yeah, you probably could. Ooh.
There you go. And thanks for the history panel. We can just go right back to where we were. Does everybody know about this? You can just go back because Lightroom is non-destructive. You can go right back to the very beginning, or you can go back to any particular point and start from there. You know, let's say we wanted to keep this, but we wanted to also make a black and white. I could go back to the beginning, and then I could say, photo, give me a virtual copy. And then I would have a new copy that I could turn into black and white, or I could go back to the old copy that I've already started to make changes to. So now I have this one and this one. That's using virtual copy. Becky, are we good?
Yeah, I think that looks good. This is a minor detail, no pun intended, but it bugs me that that bridge, that support under the bridge right there, I would love to just get rid of that.
You guys are making me work.
Oh, wow, that's great.
How's that?
I like it.
Now, what's interesting, I want you guys to notice that even though I replaced this with this, which is really bright, the healing brush kept the tonality of what was there. So that's a really nice feature. I didn't have to change the tonality from something because the target was over here, really bright. And it matched the tonality to the existing environment that it was going to. How are we doing on time?
Yeah, we've really only got about 15 minutes, so we better move quickly.
All right, so here's a tricky one. Let's just spend a few minutes on this because there's a couple of ones in here that we really want to get to. What do you guys want to do with this?
Black and white is what you said. Black and white.
It kind of already is, right? Make it real graphic.
Ooh.
Vertical. Can you make it a portrait? Is that what you mean? Yeah, can you make it portrait, crop it to a portrait?
So do you guys know the keyboard shortcuts for that? So the keyboard shortcut for crop is keyboard shortcut R, and then X will change it from one direction to the other.
Will you repeat that?
Yep. So let me start where we started. So this is where we started. So if you want to go into crop mode, you can do it this way, or you can just hit keyboard letter R. And then if you want to go from landscape to portrait or portrait to landscape, hit keyboard letter X. And then you can move it around. And we probably want the bird about here, right?
Thank you.
What else? it's already a big improvement, isn't it?
David Navratil wants more separation between the bird and the background.
Yeah, I do too. How do you want to do that? Darken the bird or
He
lighten the
doesn't know.
background? Why don't we darken the bird a little bit? That better? Let's see if
Maybe
select,
lighten up the background a little bit.
yeah, I'm gonna see if select sky will work. Yeah, kind of. Like that. Okay, you get the idea?
Yep.
All right, this next image is a fantastic image, and I don't know if we're going to do anything to it. What do you say?
I think we should pull up the shadows a bit to see if we can get the eye visible in that moose. Or even the black point.
Bring it up. So let's
Is the,
see where
is
the
the eye
eye is.
visible at all?
So here's the eye.
No,
You want to
that's
put
the
a little
eye.
catch light in?
That's not the eye. That's not the eye. That's the eye.
Yeah, this is the eye. Yeah, I was moving my hand away. Do you want to put a catch light in the eye?
Yes.
Everybody know how to do that? You take your brush and you make it really small. And then you draw a little catch light in. And then you take the exposure up all the way. And then you get a little catch light, but you're still not getting enough of the eye.
Looks like a water dog.
Yeah, let's fix this a little bit. Let's make it a little bit bigger. That's better. So we still need to make this a little brighter, right?
Yeah. If we can, if there's any detail there, I don't know. It's better than it was though.
Okay, that's a little better.
I would crop the very bottom. There's like a,
Mm.
it's hard to tell if it's blown out just or not, but on the big screen, it's distracting. I would crop those little bubbles up the very bottom.
So Michael, we want to crop the very, very bottom of the image. You can see there's some water catching the light. Either
Yeah.
crop that out or I don't know, darken it.
Well, well, if we want to keep the aspect ratio, it's all really tight.
Yeah.
So we could actually just clone it out.
Yeah.
As you guys can see, I really like this tool.
Put an eagle. Can you put an eagle down? No, just kidding. That was David's suggestion.
You know, I really want to try and accentuate some of this water. Like, what if we bring the whites up? We bring these whites up and then we bring this area down with a brush. Take off the mask. And just bring these highlights down to where it was before. So see the difference?
Mm.
It almost looks like there's a layer of snow on the top of his pan on the right there.
Up here,
No.
here. Oh,
No,
this right here?
Yes, yes.
I might be able to bring the highlight down on that. That's a good suggestion. Better?
Much.
All right, so here's where we started. Here's where we are. I kind of think the background's too bright. What do you think? What if we vignette it a little bit? Like that. Kyle, this is your image. Weigh in.
Kyle had to leave early, sorry.
Oh, okay. All right, so that's where we started. That's where we are. What do you think?
Yeah, that's a massive improvement.
Okay.
Kyle's going to watch the recorded version, Michael, so he will see this.
Okie doke. So the next one is a little bit of a departure from subject matter. This is from Ed Levino. What do you guys want to do with this?
Black and
Nothing.
white. We have a call for black and white. Yeah, that looks good.
So let's start with the white and the black point, because that's a good thing to do with black and white. Stretch out that histogram. So what's interesting is we have to now make a creative decision. Is this supposed to be black or do you want to see detail? Because if it's supposed to be black, let's make it black. And if you want there to be detail, we would want to sort of bring the shadows up. But I think it should be kind of black. But I'm open to anyone's suggestion.
Well, I think that helps with a little bit of detail in the white gourd on top.
Yeah. So now when you go to the black and white mix panel, which is the HSL panel reincarnated with black and white, you can start really playing to see. So this is how the reds react. This is how the oranges react. This is how the yellows react. This is how the greens react. There's not much green. This is aqua, not much aqua. Here's blue. It's a little bit of blue. Purple, just in the middle. So I would actually bring the purple up and create some contrast in that metal. You see this area right here. And there's almost no magenta. But we can take the red and we can add some contrast in these gourds. And then you can use texture. See that? and clarity to really start to bring it out. And then you got the wood too. And then if you vignette this, I might actually crop it a little bit. What do you guys think about cropping this a little bit?
Yes.
Like maybe give it a 4:3 aspect ratio. No, that's probably too tight. Give it an 8:10 aspect ratio. How about that? So that's where we started. And that's where we are. Rachel, do we have time for one more?
Yeah, I guess we can do one more quickly.
Okay, so here's a beautiful picture.
Oh, wow.
And I'm sure we've all taken pictures like this, so this would be a good one to work on. This picture is Sue Lurie's. It's gorgeous. What do you want to do with it?
Some detail in the sky.
We need some detail in the sky.
So how are you going to get detail in the sky?
Is there anything in the sky or is it just completely white?
I don't think there's anything there.
Okay.
But what you can do is you can actually add color to the sky. So how you would do that is you could go in and select the sky. And then here's a trick. You can use your color temperature to add some blue. And you could probably add a little saturation to get a little bit more blue. So from that to that, does that help?
We need to pull the shadows up, please.
Okay.
You want to jump on?
No.
Get rid of the
There's a little
sun.
sun flare. I want to know.
Can we dehaze the whole picture just a little bit? Just a little bit like that. So that's where we started. That's where we are. What do you guys think about the smoke?
We want to add a bit of detail to it. So can we,
Sure.
like, I don't know how we can make it.
So let's brush it. And then because what we're brushing, primarily we want to increase the white. So we should be able to just up the whites. There you go, and add a little bit of detail in that smoke. And maybe increase the texture just a little bit. So let's
Michael,
just see. So we just went from that to that.
Michael, do you notice the sun flare on the left-hand side of the picture where there's a tall cottonwood? Yeah. So did you want to get rid of that or you want to?
I don't know how you would get rid of that.
Okay. Sue
You?
wanted to get rid of it, but that's fine.
I don't know how you would get rid of that.
Brush around the tree.
Yeah, you could brush around the tree and
Just
Yeah, but you're not going to be able to, you're not going to watch. You're not going
Yeah.
to be able to. Now, tell me what you want me to do.
just darken it.
Darken it, pull the exposure down a tiny bit. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, that's not as obvious. It's not perfect.
Okay.
Okay.
What about the color of the foreground on the bottom left? It seems like such a contrast of just gray versus kind of the more golden colors.
Yeah, it almost seems like there's no saturation, right? Does everybody see the tools I'm using here? In the linear gradient, you can open up the feathering by pulling on one of the bars, either this one or this one. You can move the whole gradient with the center dot. And then if you put your mouse over the center line, you can change the angle. So now let's see if we can add some color to this. That's as much saturation as I got.
Can you go to the HSL and add some color that way?
No, there's no HSL. The only thing you have is this hue slider
Okay.
that doesn't really do very much.
The color temp. Color temp.
Oh, maybe.
Change the temperature.
I
Yeah,
don't
I
know.
mean,
Yeah.
All right, so now we've got this feathering that's a problem. So let's just bring that down. Yeah, that helped. Good. So now there's too much saturation. Hold on. There we go. That looks good. Okay.
Yeah, much better.
From there to there. Wow. What if we add a little bit of saturation to the whole, or vibrance to the whole thing? Just a little bit.
that was great.
Okay, Rachel, it's all yours.
Yeah, we're out of time, David. It's over to you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Anybody have any other questions or anybody left on the chat?
Just tell people it's recorded and they can.
Yeah. So we'll have it recorded. We'll put it up on the YouTube channel.
Does Michael want to give the Lightroom class?
Michael, somebody wants to know if you want to give a Lightroom class.
I give private Lightroom lessons all the time. Whoever wants it, call me. Send me an email or a text.
All right. Anything? Anybody else? Thank you. The
Thank
next
you.
meeting, oh gosh, is November. It's a landscape contest, so be watching. I can't remember the exact date off the top of my head, but it's the third Tuesday in November. And it'll have to be landscapes that you shot in probably the last 12 to 18 months. Just to give you a little hint, so you can't go pulling something from 5 years ago. So, anyhow, anything else? If nothing else, we'll let everybody go. Michael, if you want to stop the recording and you can send that to me, I'll get it on YouTube.
So I did it to the cloud.
Oh, okay.